Hi, you're listening to the Chasing Tone podcast with Travis,
Max,
and
Brian.
That's Brian Wampler for you guys who don't know that this is a legitimate show with experts. We know stuff. We don't, but Brian does.
No, not that much.
He's the tone chaperone, the man behind the tone curtain.
terrible.
That's horrible.
That's terrible. Hey, I'm trying new things out. I'm spitballing. Eventually one's going to stick. It's true.
Throwing rice against the wall.
Throwing rice against the wall, right, boss?
Quote Brian.
Yeah, that's a Wamplerism. Okay, so a couple things I want to talk about. Let me inconspicuously grab my list and look at it. Okay, this is a good one. If you had to have 3 pedals to play for the rest of your life, well, let's even go deeper.
Okay.
1 amp, 1 guitar, 3 pedals, rest of your life, what are they?
Guitar is easy for me.
Yeah, Telecaster with a
That'd be-
G-bender.
Yeah, put a G bender in a Whitfill.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. Okay.
Amplifier. Wow. That's a hard one because that's like saying if you don't have one sandwich,
Oh, I know.
one thing to eat, for
And
the
that's
rest of your
why
life.
that's why this is difficult.
I don't see the problem.
Well,
Golly,
because it depicts the outcome of what 3 pedals.
it does. Yeah,
Of course. And that's why I'm hammering you down right now. You got to do it.
Gosh. Okay, if you said make a decision right now, I probably would say, okay, I'll take the Port City Pearl
Okay.
and pedals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it'd be an overdrive, a distortion, and a delay.
Specifics, man.
Specifics, okay.
And it's okay to say the pedal. Obviously, you're going to like your pedals because you built them to your ear. That's completely understandable, you know? I mean, for instance, you built the Plexi Drive, and once you built the Plexi Drive,
Okay.
you told me you were I'm done.
I'll do both. I'll do if it was mine and if it's
Okay,
not mine. So,
all right.
so overdrive, it'd be a new overdrive that will come out eventually, which is a prototype of the Plexi Drive.
Mhm.
It has a 3-band EQ on it, and it's particularly
It's fantastic.
awesome. It'd be that. Distortion would be, probably the slow distortion.
Mm-hmm.
That'd probably be the distortion I would use. And the delay, I'd use the Fotape Echo. And then, let's see, if it was outside of our stuff, let me think. Overdrive would probably be a really good Tube Screamer, probably. Distortion would be, let me think here. Maybe a Catalan bread distortion. Probably, and I'm not even sure which one, but
They got a lot of good stuff.
There's a couple of them I really
like that Dirty Little Secret. That's
the
cool.
Dirty Little Secret. Yeah,
What's
that's
that?
a
What's
great
the other one? The Formula 5, is that right?
Formula 5.
Formula 5 is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it'd probably be the Dirty Little Secret as my distortion.
Okay.
And then delay would probably be, I like my TC Electronics delay.
Yeah, the flashback.
Yeah.
That little blue one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that today.
I like that.
I was gonna play through it, but I didn't.
So,
Okay, Max. Or is that good? You got it?
yeah.
Right, that's good. That's good stuff. Max, amp.
Amp. I'd probably say some kind of Fender with 6L6s. Probably like my Super.
Super?
I really like that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Guitar.
Guitar is kind of a no-brainer. It's a Strat.
Okay.
I like the Woodville Strat. Charles, if you're listening. Woodville Strat. 3 pedals. I'd have to say probably 2 overdrives and a delay. Specific? Yeah.
Pacific?
Pacific's an ocean.
My Pacific one.
As opposed to the Atlantic.
Pacifically.
Not the second to the boss. I really like the Fotape Echo. That'd be my favorite delay. And then overdrives, I had to say some kind of Tube Screamer. And then I've been really digging the Morning Glory by JHS.
Okay.
So pretty cool.
Cool. All right, I'm going to take a little different route. First, my guitar it's a Don Grosh retro classic. It's an S style guitar, but to me, I've not been able to find anybody that can make one of those guitars any better. I mean, I've played vintage ones and don't touch it. But so that guitar, an amp that I used to have that I sold that I shouldn't was a Marshall 2061.
Oh, sweet.
That'd be my amp. And I'm going to do the pedal thing different. I'm going to do vintage and current manufacturers. Okay. So if you want to interject with that, think of yours.
Ahead.
Okay.
Go for it.
But so mine would be, if I'm going vintage, would be a univibe first, and then some type of overdrive, more than likely a TS9 or an older Maxon version, and then an Echoplex, But current manufacturers, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but
No, sure.
well, I mean, it's something that's upcoming. So the overdrive would be a Wampler pedal that's upcoming. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, boss. So,
Well, it's you'll find out in about a month.
in about a month. Okay, with that,
Oh, I know what you're guys. Yeah, it's a sick pedal.
that pedal. I was fortunate enough to kind of be there when it was designed, and it was cool. We put a lot of pedals of its class. Would you say?
Mm-hmm.
We put a lot of those pedals up against each other, and
Because this one is based off of a classic design, which we don't usually do.
right
So we started with a pre-existing
platform.
yeah,
we need to be
platform.
We need to be a little more vague here, so people understand what we're talking about.
But anyways, we took my two favorites pretty much, and I think you agreed that my overall favorite was one of the better sounding ones that you'd ever heard.
Yeah.
And we started there, and then we took another one that sounded awesome at another extreme setting and went there, and it's just awesome. But that's the overdrive. That'd be it. That'd be the overdrive. The vibe pedal would be Earthquaker Devices, the Depths. That thing sounds awesome. I don't know if Jamie's listening, but great job, dude. And then the Fotape Echo. Mm-hmm. I love the modulation circuit on it. But one thing I've noticed with that pedal, though, I'll listen to you play it, and then I'll look at like the modulation and then the level, like the level of the overall level.
Right.
And it sounds great, but I swear when I said it exactly, it sounds like I'm swimming in delay. Like, I don't know why. Is it just in my head maybe? I don't know, but it seems
it
like...
might be because maybe it's the way we pick or something.
Yeah.
'Cause I play a lot louder. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
maybe
not.
I'm hearing the original signal more from you instead of the delay. But you
Could
would think
be.
that... I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a weird thing, but...
But
So-
I find that across the board. I mean, like we've talked about that before. Like, if I'll set something up and like, okay, this sounds great, and you
Yeah.
play it, and I'm like, huh,
yeah, exactly.
that sounds totally different.
The two
I mean, not
pedals...
that it's bad, but I'm
Right.
just like, it doesn't sound that way to me.
The two pedals that I can, pacifically say...
That's Notion.
No, that I can specifically say are the Plex Torsion and the Tweed 57. You play those those pedals and they sound great. I play them and it's like I can't make them
It just
sound
doesn't work good for you.
good. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But-
And there's there's a lot of pedals like that I've heard. I mean, like we're talking fuzzes, for example. Fuzzes just do not work with me for whatever reason. But I mean, I put it in front of you, and it's a whole different thing. It's
right.
It's technique, and
Yeah,
it's all that stuff.
and it just comes down to your bag. I mean, fuzz and stuff like
Right.
anything Hendrix is
Right.
gonna be more my bag. To where I kicked my compressor off my board, and I bet you can't imagine doing a gig without a compressor.
I always have one on a little
Yeah,
bit. Yeah,
yeah.
always.
I kicked it off my board completely. I went about 4 shows without ever stepping on it, and I was like, I did a jazz show, I did a blues show, and I did a country show, and I didn't even step on a country gig. But I was pushing my amp pretty hard too, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you're up loud, anyways, you got
Yeah.
some compression to it anyway. So
Do you use compression?
Occasionally, yeah. I started using it. Actually, not until after I started working here. I use it to fatten up my rhythm section. That's about it. If I'm playing something funky, I use it to fatten it up.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of. I notice it smooths stuff out, especially if you're playing like, the quicker funk stuff where it's like 2-note. You can't call them chords, but 2-note run lines, I guess.
right.
So, okay. So vintage. If you could go vintage pedals or amps, I guess.
Oh man.
Well, you said you're super. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in love with your super reverb.
Yeah,
anyway.
I love the Super. Yeah, I'd have to go probably early. Well, I can't remember. I always forget the name of it. It's basically a Super with a 15 in it.
What?
I can't remember. Anyways,
The Fender one. It's a silver
Yeah.
face thing.
well, it's a blackface thing.
Is it?
Sierra Vaughn played one. I can't remember.
Oh, the
name of it.
Vibroverb.
Vibroverb.
Yeah,
there
the
we go.
Vibroverb.
I like those a lot too. If I had to do that, I'd have to be like an early '60s Strat. I think neck profiles and those are kind of fit my hands a little better.
Yeah.
Definitely have to go with probably an early Maxon overdrive of some sort. I'd have to go with the early fuzz face, but it'd have to be a good one, which Do you have to play 500 of them to
They're
finally
all
get
they're
one?
all good. They're fine.
It'd have to be the right temperature outside.
Exactly. Yeah, it has to be right court.
They're all good.
Yeah, it had to be right. And then
Just go to eBay. You'll see they're all good.
yeah, they're all good. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Then I'd have to, as much as it's heresy, just to be a fanboy, I'd have to go with the Klon. Just to say I have one. I don't know if I'd even step on it. Just to show other builders that like, hey, I got one of those. You don't. So
You know,
Other builders or other players?
Other players, yeah, whatever.
Okay.
I like them.
You
I
don't.
just I don't for what they do. I like to achieve it differently than with that type of circuit.
My thing is like I said, I've only played 2 of them, but I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's got a Centaur on it. What's cooler than that?
A Centaur?
A Minotaur, whatever it is. They're cool. A mythical creature of sorts. That's awesome. That's
Minotaur. Didn't she do some songs in the 80s? Oh, that's Benatar.
Minotaur.
Minotaur,
Pat
yeah.
Minotaur.
Minotaur, whatever. I don't know.
How do you say it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Centaur.
Anyways,
I don't
I'd
think
go
it's
with one of
Centaur. I
those.
think it's Centaur.
3 dime of golden goodness.
Sure.
No respect.
Okay.
That's like $333 a piece
Yeah,
You know,
pot.
per pot. Yeah.
First, you guys don't ask me about my favorite tube amp.
Expensive pot. That's very expensive pot.
First, you guys don't ask me about my favorite tube amp, and now you're knocking me from my classic pedal choice.
Well, the problem is that you're just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if
I don't know
you
why I'm even here. It's like, oh, there's nothing to talk about. We'll just bash Max's hopes and dreams. Yeah. Yeah, I don't care if the pedal sounds like Dreams in Starlight. No, he's wrong. Way to go, Max. Gosh.
oh, that's great, dude.
It's funny.
So, what about you? The vintage stuff, or
You know what? I'm probably the odd guy that played through a ton of vintage stuff, and some of it's great and some of it's crap.
Right.
Just like new stuff, some of it's great, some of it's crap.
see, I find that with guitars.
And guitars,
Like,
same thing.
Rarely do I play a vintage guitar that I like. I mean, there's a guy named Smokin' Joe Kubek. You know him at all? You ever heard of him? He's a blues guy from Texas. I mean, he's a legend in his own right. And he had a cool old 60s Strat, and it looked like it'd been dragged behind a truck. So of course I was drawn to it just because, and it was before the vintage thing was cool,
Right.
or the relic thing. And so I was asking him about it, and he was actually good friends with Stevie Ray Vaughan. And of course, who's not? Who doesn't think that's cool? So he was like, yeah, this is the guitar. Stevie used to always want to buy this guitar. And he was talking about it, and I was like, oh, man, I wish I could play that. I didn't say that out loud, but he could kind of sense it. So he put it in my hands. He was like, here, man, play it. And I played it. It had like this little skinny neck on it and tiny frets. I was like, and then I played Gordon's 63, and then I played Benito's 62. I didn't like any of them.
I love it. I love that little neck, though.
Really? See, not me. Yeah, I don't know. So me with the vintage Strat thing, that's why when I got that, Strat style guitar from Don, like the neck was. You got to admit, for a bigger neck, that feels great.
It feels great. Yeah, it really does. It's fast.
Yeah.
It's a fast neck.
I mean, I think there's, and I think Paul Reed Smith has even hit on something like this quite a bit when he talks about his guitars. But I think there's something to be said for like old guitars. If they sound good, it's generally a lot of luck because they weren't going
no
through
manufacturing,
picking out wood and like thinking that whole thing. They're just slapping the guitars together, and every now and then one came out really good,
right?
Versus a lot of builders now, like Charles, like Paul, and a lot of guys who build guitars. They're just more into the tonal aspects of it. So there's a lot more rejecting of wood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's I think I don't know. I mean they don't always feel like a good old broken in guitar, but I don't know. There's been a few old Tellys I've played that I thought were good, and some that I thought were okay. But for the most part, I mean, like that's why I like the Whitfield so much because it feels like a really good old broken in guitar, and it sounds good.
Yeah, those sound great, man.
And I played a lot of other Tellys, and
well, I have
they don't always have that thing to them. They all kind of sound like a Mexican Fender. That's not necessarily bad. It just that has its own thing going on. It doesn't remind me of an old Telly.
Yeah, like not this past week, like this year's NAMM, but last year's summer NAMM, I fell in love with one of Charles's guitars, and I had to find a way to make it mine. And luckily, this guy I know, bought it as a gift for me because I couldn't afford it. So thank you to that dude that did that. But
Remember that time I got? Wait a minute. I don't have a wood fill. But then again, because I'm wrong.
But that's that, and then
He should bring back the Stratocaster.
he should bring back the Strat. I mean,
Dude,
why
that
limit
Strat was
yourself?
awesome.
You know what I mean? But it did kind of make me feel good that I'm a total Vince Gill fanboy. There, I said it, I admitted it. Brian even told Vince, he said, "That's the little girl to your Elvis." And I told him, I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm a huge fan." And he looked at me and said, "You like donuts?"
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Anything you want, sir.
Yes,
But
Mr. Gill.
But I guess Charles built Vince a guitar exactly like the one I have, except for he actually went to Vince's house to measure his, was it a 52 or 53? 53, I think, Telly, and like measured the neck and got it perfect. So, but
Wow.
so this is way off subject, but it's a question that came in through the email podcast at wamplerpedals.com. And I kind of wanted, you actually brought it to my attention, the one about EQ.
Yep.
And it makes, we don't think about it because we do this day in and day out. It's our job. It's our livelihood. It's just what we do. But he made a good point. He was like, there's EQs on amps. There's EQs on pedals. If you use preamps, sometimes there's EQs. If you go into recording consoles, there's EQs there. And then out front, there's EQ on the mixing decks. And it's like, number one, where's it all start? Number two, where's it all end? So
Yeah, and that can be very confusing to someone that, I mean, it can be overwhelming, especially if you're like just jumping into the effects game.
Yeah.
Or you're going from a lot of single tone knob pedals to, like our stuff, we have 3-band EQs on all
On a
kinds
lot of
things.
stuff, yeah.
And plus bright switches and,
Yeah.
Mojo switches and all that
So
stuff. So,
what I would recommend, and you touched on it without touching on it, was the Port City Pearl. It's a very, very clean platform amp. My personal, I don't know what you guys would think, but I guess there's two schools of thought. I could be completely wrong to some people on this, but I like to set my amp clean to where I love that sound.
right.
And then EQ everything else to that amp. To where maybe some guys would just want something completely flat and then EQ their pedals. So
I can tell you, like me personally, and didn't mean to butt in there, Max, but
I'll be wrong anyway.
dang! Look at
at least you know your place.
He meant that one. Look at it. I can see it on his face.
Just kidding, Max. So, what were you saying? Train of thought. ADD.
No, EQs. How you personally like?
Oh yeah,
EQ.
that's right. Okay, so it depends what I'm doing. Like for example, I'll be playing a gig tonight.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to be using an overdrive for 90% of it. So I'm going to set my amp up
To sound good with that
overdrive, and the
Okay.
clean tone's a little bit secondary because there's only a little bit of things.
Right.
But it's a primarily a country rock gig.
Let me interject real quick. When I mean clean tone, I'm sorry, I meant bass tone. For instance, like last night I had a gig and my amp was overdriven, and then I still ran pedals, even
Your
dirt pedals.
unaffected tone.
Yeah,
without any effects.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I just wanted to
Right.
kind of interject there. Your clean, unaffected tone. So okay, go ahead.
So usually, of course, I've been playing with pedals for a long time, so I kind of know what I want that to be. In other words, like if I was using a twin, that bright switch would be off. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I don't want too much bass. I want a little more mids, not a whole lot of treble, because I want that classic rock type sound, right?
Right.
So if I did a lot more clean stuff, I'd probably want more of a chimey, sparkly sort of thing.
Yeah.
Something that's got just that real bell-like tone.
Right.
And then from that point, I would probably say, okay, so I got my bass tone how I like it. Now I'm going to turn on my overdrive. Is it too bright? Well, then I need to turn the highs down.
On your amp.
On me personally,
Right.
on my pedal.
Okay.
So,
okay.
because once I have my clean tone how I want it, then if once I kick on my overdrive, if it's too bright, I'll turn my treble down.
Right.
On it.
Okay.
If when I'm hitting my low E string or maybe like a palm muty type thing, not that I palm mute a whole lot,
If
but
it's woofing.
But if it's like
Yeah.
then I know to decrease my bass.
Right.
And I usually just bump my mids up in general if I'm going to play with anybody because I want to sit in the mix.
Right.
And that's kind of how I approach it. So
Okay.
every pedal is a kind of fine tuned to
Right.
to what I'm doing with the clean tone.
And that's kind of how I do. Only my amp, because I like a little amp dirt, So I go with my amp, and then I make my pedals marry my amp instead of a lot of people will do vice versa.
Right.
I used your Super one time, and it was so loud
Yeah.
that I basically just put it to where it sounded good because I couldn't get it to break up. So like, how do you use yours? Do you
Actually, I had that problem for a long time. I actually swapped all the speakers out in it.
yeah,
for
you
a
got
lower
those
wattage speaker.
WGSs now.
Yeah, I used the veteran.
Yeah, they have veteran 30s.
Yeah, they're lower wattage, and it works way better. I can actually crank the amp way up now.
So you
Nice.
get a little more speaker breakup then.
Way more speaker breakup. Way
Well,
more.
what did you like? Because the
Yeah.
Derek Trucks thing, a lot of his sound
Exactly,
is
yeah.
I mean, you could
speaker
put
breakup.
different speakers in there and get no breakup.
Right.
But yeah, that would be a good combination.
Yeah, because
I use that smaller magnet weight.
yeah,
It's awesome now.
I used your amp one time. Thank you so much. You bailed me
Oh, yeah,
out for
no
this,
problem.
but I was doing like a soul gig. It was soul music, so you don't want a lot of dirt. So my amp was on the fritz, man. So I borrowed your amp. It was an outdoor gig, and I'm thinking it's a Fender style amp. I'm playing a Telecaster with some high-ish output pickups, just single coils. So I'm thinking, okay, cool, I'll break this amp up. I couldn't break it up, even outdoors, man, because you had the original speakers from the 60s in it or
Yeah,
whatever.
they had these huge magnets
Yeah,
on it.
I couldn't break it up, and like everything, I actually had to use an overdrive pedal, which normally for that gig I don't use an overdrive pedal. So
Those speaker magnets are so heavy. I weighed the amp once with all four of the speakers in it. We weighed 91.5 pounds.
oh, that's stupid.
91.5 with the new speakers in it. It's like 72 pounds. I
Oh
think.
wow,
So
that's
that's a
fantastic.
traditional, or a huge difference. Yeah.
Okay, so I totally cut you off.
No,
there.
you're fine. Yeah, I kind of use a reverse V kind of look. I have more mid range, kind of roll off my highs and lows because
Okay.
the amp's naturally kind of has one extreme on the lows and another extreme on the highs. And I kind of use my pedals to match that. I like
Okay.
a lot of mid range hump. My attack, my pick end is kind of bass heavy, anyways. Plus, I'm a little bit lighter. So
I
I like
remember we
more of a-
analyzed that one time.
We did, yeah. Believe it or not, Travis brought. I think we're at a music store, and I always use these Tortex picks. And I kept getting all these bass heavy responses. And I was like,
And I was
man,
like, you have no mid range, dude.
Yeah, I can't
no
get
matter
rid
what
of
amp
this.
you play.
yeah. So he's like, here, check this out. And it was like a cheap, poly pick, just cheap
Yeah.
plastic pick from like I forgot. Guitar
That's what
Center
I.
or something.
That's what I use. I use the Ernie Ball picks. You can
Yeah.
buy like a gross of them for like 50 cents or something. I mean, not really, obviously, but I use because I lose them. I'm not going to spend a lot of money on a pick. I'm going to lose it. But.
Once I used that, and I was like, man, that's a world of difference. There's
Yeah.
actually a blog about it. Check it out, Wampler blog.
Yeah, Max is our blog writer. Yeah. What'd you name that one? He's always got
how to pick your pick.
how to pick your pick. Okay, cool.
Okay.
No, I didn't mean it that way. No.
Wrong again, Max.
No, it's just you always have the clever like sag as a drag. That's the one you had. You should hear the ones. You should read the ones that he sends to me. I'm like, no.
Brian rejects.
No.
He's like, I don't get it.
Or no, he's like, I get it. I just don't think it's funny. That's what he always tells me. He's like, oh, I get it.
It's just not good.
And he does. Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't even finish anymore. Now he's like, oh, I get it.
But nobody else will.
Yeah. It could be like my wife, be like, oh, I understand your joke, honey. You're just not funny.
Don't quit your date.
What I always tell people though is, thank gosh, I'm a little arrogant. So like, I know I'm hilarious. So if you don't think it's funny, it's your fault. It's not me. It's not because I'm not funny. I'm hilarious.
cracking myself up.
Yeah, I am hilarious. So you touched on something, Brian, that
Yeah.
I thought was kind of cool, talking about if you're woofing too much, you'll lower your bass. I know a guy that's a great guitar player, and he has a pretty interesting thing. And you guys listening, you might want to try it. I tried it. It was cool. But I brought in, it was a Little Smasher by Diago. It was that little amp or whatever.
Yeah.
5 pound or 5 watt
Little
solid state amp.
yeah.
But it has a 3-band EQ on it, and he basically would set the bass to his E and A strings. He'd just hit E and A open, and then he'd set the bass to that. Then he'd hit his D and G to set the mid-range, and then his B and E to set the treble.
I can see that.
And I never,
Yeah.
it makes total sense, but I never thought to try that.
That's pretty
and
awesome.
that's how he does anything with a 3-band EQ. That
I can see that.
Yeah, blew my mind though. Have you ever? I've never thought to do that as long as I've been playing.
I'm gonna go home and try it now.
Exactly, right? So that might be a way for you guys to start on an EQ too. You know, find those sweet spots within your frequency. I think it was Derek Trucks actually said what he'll do is he'll play, like if he has a backline. Obviously now he doesn't do backline. He's big enough to where he has his own stuff. But back in the day, I read that he would actually start with on 5 and then dial up or down from there on every mid, treble, bass, whatever, until he found a sweet spot with that particular amp. So that might be another thing you guys might want to try. Mm-hmm. You know, just completely different ways to think about it. But right. I thought the individual strings was pretty cool.
What about, I'd ask 2 questions.
Okay.
One would be, do you use your tone knob on your guitar? And the second question would be, do you use an EQ pedal?
I don't use an EQ pedal, but I was talking to Derek Williams, plays with the Jake Owen band, and I asked specifically on my face pages about if you
know that's an ocean, right?
What's that?
It's not Pacifically.
It's not Pacifically, but yeah, the face pages. So I asked about wireless systems and which ones didn't add any type of frequencies and which didn't change your tone, and he was like. And Derek, man, the guy, he could have anything he wants. I think as this is being recorded, he's playing with an artist that has a number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, they're playing gigantic places.
Yeah, they're playing arenas, stadiums. I mean, tens of thousands of people. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't remember which one I got, but it really doesn't matter which one I have because I just put an EQ pedal after it. And it made sense. I was like, I never thought to do that, So, but no, the only time I've ever used an EQ is through an effects loop, I think. Mm-hmm.
That's a good place to put them too.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So, of course it is. Of course it is.
If you want, it's just like if you're using EQ pedals, if you want to shape the distortion, like the way, like maybe the character of it, almost like putting a wall in front of a distortion will affect things.
That sounds terrible.
Well, an EQ will do the same thing. So you can actually kind of create a mid-range bump and tighten the distortion up a lot.
See, that's a good idea. Yeah, because that's the one thing. I mean, that's why I use a tube screamer a lot in front of things is to tighten it up. But
you can do that same with the
EQ.
With the EQ, and
makes total sense. Just never thought of it.
The opposite is you can boost the bass going into a distortion pedal and create a fuzz.
Now we're talking.
But I usually put the EQ after it because that kind of shapes the overall sound
of
what you got going in. So therefore, it's kind of like if you got a 3-band EQ on your amp. With an EQ pedal, it's almost like having a 10-band or whatever. You can change specific frequencies rather than like the whole EQ curve of the ocean.
The ocean. Okay, we're kind of running out of time, but I want to get to you. Do you use EQ pedal at all?
Never a pedal on my guitar. Or I use a Strat, so I use the bottom, the bridge. Mm-hmm. Tone control just a little bit, but that's about it.
You have yours wired to where because not all of them do this, but
yeah, I got both versions of it. Yeah, the more modern wiring schematic.
I forget which one is which. I know I asked Don to wire mine to where you're on the bridge pickup, the bottom tone knob controls that.
Out. Oh, okay, yeah. That's a modern version.
That's the modern version. Right. Okay, and
I
Jack Pearson, he does that too.
Jack's Enigma.
Yeah, right.
You can make it the 90. He had a video out. It's like $91 Squire Stratocaster.
Yeah,
it sounds better than
what it was
all my gear.
It was that Allman Brothers tribute. He was in a pawn shop and he bought it because he liked it and he said that's the only thing he did to it. And then he went through one of those blues. What's the one? The DeVille, not the Deluxe. The ones like the 410s or something like that.
Yeah, it's a DeVille.
That's the DeVille. I think. Version, yeah, he had backline. Yeah. He had a backline rig there because he talked about it on his face page. But okay, as far as guitar volume, tone, you touched on that a little bit. You do use yours?
I'll roll back, especially my bridge pickups, like too trebly. I'll roll back on tone just a little bit, kind of even it out. That's about it.
So I can't stand that as a player. In fact, I have guitars that I've just disconnected the treble completely. So you're wrong again, Max.
Wrong. You like it? It must be wrong, Max. Wrong.
See, mine's wired that way, but I never use it because the only way I ever use the bridge pickup on a Strat is for a solo boost, and the only time I have that is when I have overdrive stacked. So what I do is I always just EQ my second overdrive really dark, you know. But then again, I have a Les Paul Junior, which has one P90, and I ride that tone knob constantly.
So you like to turn a tone down before like you go into a distortion, for example?
On everything with that guitar, because that's my neck pickup. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never used.
I'll have to bring it in.
Though,
right,
so.
I have to bring it in.
I like the wiry
Of course,
thing.
Travis isn't wrong. No, and I say this is what I like to do.
Well,
wrong.
I like him though. That's the
You can tell who's a favorite. It's like Travis, you don't get to see that much. So he's like the kid that comes home from college. It's like, oh, Travis is here. It's like Max is the guy that's like, oh yeah, he's just a kid that lives in my basement. You know, he stays in his office. I can see him anytime I want. But Travis only here for once a week or whatever.
Well, I'm glad that you know your
twice
place.
a week.
Twice a
I
week.
could be here twice a week now. No, what Max is referring to is I have an infant son that I work from home, you know, most of the time, and I only come in 2 days a week. So Max says I'm like the kid that comes home from college.
You are. Dad's like, oh, I like you better. You know?
He's like he's got my pictures up with like first place trophies and medals, and then he's got pictures of you with your participation
No,
trophies.
he's like, no. Brian takes my pictures and like puts his gum in it, and throws it away. Says he gets his hands dirty. That's my pictures. And then he just tells me like, just try harder. I got B's. Try harder. I don't care. Travis come home with like a D-, be like, oh yeah, at least you passed. Go back to your office because you're wrong.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't agree with that.
I do. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
He always
son.
says that. Did you say favorite son?
No.
I think his actual son is probably his favorite son.
Probably. But if he had an adopted
Because he's
son,
just like Travis.
they're both
He is
short.
awful.
Yeah, oddly enough, yeah.
The scary thing is
it's pretty scary.
he's close enough
And
to
it
my
makes me-
personality.
and it makes me worry because of that.
You should be worried.
Actually,
I turned out okay. Granted, I didn't start being okay till I was like 32.
I'm like, son, you do not want see Travis. You don't want to be like Travis.
It's true.
Tell him, Travis. How bad is your life? Tell him.
And then I'll just be like, dude, you want to do exactly what I did. Every bit of it, you know? And I'll teach you how to get chicks. That's what scares you the most.
That's what scares me. Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause I'm like, do not ask Travis about picking up girlfriends.
Why not?
Because you had like 40,000 girlfriends. in
No,
high
I
school.
didn't. Easy. My wife might hear this.
You-
I didn't either. I really never had girlfriends per se.
And that's a story for another time.
Yeah, we might as well wrap it up there, right?
and that pertains to guitar time.
So, recapping, if you had 3 pedals to go back, Desert Island, talk to Travis about pickup lines.
So,
Talk to Travis about pickup lines. My best pickup line's probably like, I don't know if you're familiar with professional roller derby, but I'm Travis Feaster. It's worked.
like,
It totally has worked.
that's got to work.
Yeah, it totally has.
don't think so.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any questions or comments, concerns, or anything, feel free to shoot us an email at podcast@wamplerpedals.com, and we'll get back to you, and we might use your topic or something on the air, or show. I guess not air, but on the show. So thanks again for listening to Chasing Tone. I'm Travis.
I'm Max.
Brian.
And that's Brian Wampler, the Tone Chaperone.
It's still terrible.
Still didn't work.
Just cut it.
The man behind the tone curtain. I'm really trying to get that one to stick,
No.
Max.
No.
I'm trying to get it to stick.
I wish I had a little newspaper.
And
Spray me with
Brian.
a squirt bottle.
No. And they say I'm the one that's wrong. Your jokes are terrible.
It's not a joke. I'm
He's
trying.
the college G- son. So
He
his
just
jokes are funny.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Till next week.
Baby, you know I want you. Love to let you shine my steel, but I'm afraid of any sudden moves now. Yeah, worry about the way